Good evening, everybody. Our guest for today is a fascinating personality. I think the old advertisement which says there will always be men and there will always be real men applies to him. A veteran with 25 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, including two tours of Afghanistan, Canadian peace officer, philosopher, photographer, an outstanding pillar of the community, doting father, devoted husband, dog dad, and a rock solid friend. I should know that. You can count on him. The man behind the Facebook phenomenon called Meanwhile in Sooke. Welcome, Drake. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to have you, and I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Thanks,
Very
Vin. So am I.
awesome. So let's start. By the way, I hope you're enjoying summer and this fabulous sunshine we're having.
Oh, it's beautiful out.
Yeah, I spent almost 2 or 3 hours on the yard today. Um, okay, let's. A question that's been on my mind for a while. Who is Drake besides the intro I just gave?
Well, that's a good question. I think I'm still working on that every day. But a little bit more than what you gave there. I was born in Vancouver, grew up on the British Columbia Lower Mainland. Spent my time in the military, mostly across Western Canada, and uh, just correct minorly what you said there. Had one tour in Afghanistan, another one in a nearby country supporting Afghanistan,
Oh, I see.
and then another one supporting one of our ships throughout the Middle East Africa area, as well as some domestic deployments here in Canada. And um, now I work in a different area with government in the province. But my real passion is photography. So I started up my own real small photography business, but it's mainly to get me out there in nature, uh, experiencing everything that nature offers and what it has. Um, so I can see different places. Most of I focus here on Vancouver Island, but I like to travel when I can. And generally, I'm curious about all things natural and scientific, and I think that sort of goes along with the whole philosophy side of things, where I have a lot of questions, and the more that I get into the philosophy side, the more interesting expression. Sorry, the more interesting questions I find out there, and the more to explore.
Yeah, that's something we're going to get into a lot of detail about you. So 25 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. How did that happen? What pulled you there and what was your motivation to get inside?
Um, Growing up, I had interest in various things. Policing and military were high up on my list. I used to go to the Abbotsford International Air Show every year when it was big. I'd do a little bit of photography with the film camera then, but I loved the displays that were put on by the different aerobatics teams. And of course, the Canadian Snowbirds always had a good show. So that got some of my interest going, and of course, Top Gun was big during that time too, right? So I
Yeah.
would have loved to go in and be a pilot, but that's not the way the direction was going for me. Um, but I had that interest there. I looked at policing career, looked at the military, and um, found out that I could get into the reserves in the military for a little bit in the infantry, and maybe work my way into the military police, or just get some general life experience and go another route. And what I did was, after a couple of years in the reserves, the opportunity came along to go into the infantry and the regular force army, um, with the option later on to switch over to the military police, which is sort of what I was looking at.
Okay.
So after several years, I managed to transfer into the military police, and that's where all my tours came from, and had experiences that really I wouldn't have got in any other way. Traveled to so many different corners of the world on short taskings. Saw so many different people introduced to different cultures. Uh, it it was interesting. It was fun a lot of times, and it was something like I say, I couldn't have got those experiences if I stuck in Canada just doing a traditional job, right? So I really enjoyed my time, and now that I'm retired from there, I'm glad that I've done it. But it's also takes a lot out of you to put all that time in, and it's nice to be home. It also takes a lot out of your family. So I'm lucky, really supportive spouse, and my kids understood when I was growing up, or when they were growing up, um, that there wasn't as much connection as I would have liked. But we've got a great relationship now, and the future's looking good.
Yeah, you just hung out with your son a few days back. That's phenomenal. What did 25 years in the armed forces cost you? In the sense that what did you have to sacrifice? What do you think you missed out on? Yeah.
It certainly was hard on relationships, and I've got all sorts of aches and pains that come from years of carrying heavy equipment, jumping on and off things, and doing all sorts of crazy things. Right. So it's cost me some there. I've got a couple minor pains that still bother me to this day from back from that time, but um, really, it cost a connection. Uh, my family, my parents, and that I didn't see nearly as much during those years as I would have liked. I know it was quite hard, particularly on my mom having me separated so far away. Um, when I was married, it was hard in that relationship with strain being away, because it's not just when you go away, it's the training. You're constantly going away for training. When
Right.
I was doing the military policing side of it, for a significant portion, I was an investigator, and that had me traveling a lot. And for me personally, those were great experiences. For my family, not so much, because on the drop of a dime, it was, yeah, we need you somewhere else. And a couple hours later, I'm on a plane and gone, right? Um,
Right.
so, so it was challenging that way. So it did cost um, personal relationships is the biggest area, and somewhat, like I say, the some of the health issues that come along with it. But again, the experiences that were gained there were just something incredible that I'm glad to have had.
Wow. Yeah. Let's talk about your gains from the 25 years of service. How did that shape you? I mean, I know you as you are today. I've known you for a few years. And as I mentioned in the intro, I think you're a rock solid guy. I've never seen you phased, never seen you shaken. I don't see you getting carried away with anybody's talk or even propaganda. So I'm guessing the military played a role in all that. But what did you gain from the military? As in, of course, the gains. And also, if you didn't go, how different would you be today?
We'll start with some gains. It definitely taught me to be able to rely on myself, as well as to rely on a team. There were various times where what I was doing was very individual based. Um, I had support somewhere in the background, but for anything immediate, I was making big decisions, and I had to know that the training I got, the experience I had, all worked together and gave me everything I needed. And I had a trust in myself that I would make an appropriate decision. At the same time, there was trust in the team. I knew if I was doing something, the people around me, the ones that were close to me, I could trust with, literally, with my life, and I could trust with anything. So it helped in both those ways. It also, I was lucky because I traveled to many different places, different countries around the world, experienced different cultures. Some of it for a very short time, other for months on end. So I got to experience things that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. Um, I don't think I would have traveled to a lot of the places. I got to go to China and actually briefly out to the Great Wall. I was over in India, um, England, Belgium, various places in Europe, Japan. There were a whole number of places that I got to go, either as the result of an investigation or a deployment, all up the east coast of Africa, through a lot of countries in the Middle East. Spent a lot of time in the UAE. Excuse me. So I saw what different cultures were like, how they interacted with each other outside of the North American environment, as well as how they interacted with Westerners, if you want to call that. And it really gives you a different viewpoint when you can see all that. Um, I'd like to think that before that, my mind wasn't closed to things and that, but this certainly broadened it, and gave me a much better understanding of why a lot of the things in different cultures are the way they are. And I mean, there's many more places and experiences that I'd still like to have and broaden even more, but it gave me even more curiosity to keep searching and seeing what else there is. And I'm sorry, I don't recall the second part of your question right now.
Oh, it's okay. You covered everything.
Okay.
Thank you. We jumped straight into your military service. We'll come back to that, but maybe we should start from the beginning. I've got a three-part question for you. So the question is, just give us a little bit about your childhood so that we know, your younger years. And so your childhood, what shaped you in your younger years? That's the second part. And the third part of the question is personalities that have influenced you in your younger years to make you who you are today.
Well, first, in my childhood, before going to school, I grew up right in Vancouver, and I only remember little bits and pieces of that. Um, but we'll come back to that later. It's always a city that's very close to my heart. Um, I really start recalling a lot more detail once we moved out to Surrey, and we lived in a couple different places in Surrey. But one of the main places, the first place we lived, we had a small hobby farm. So my dad kept cow and pigs and chickens. So I sort of learned some of the farm stuff that you would. Got to see all that, involved in the process with slaughtering the chickens and that. So I got that experience, which was quite young still. But
Come in handy
you,
later on.
sorry.
I said that would come in handy later on.
Oh yes, absolutely. And had great friends in um, school when I was growing up. Right across the street from me, a great friend who, as long as we lived there, was just fantastic. Would Those were the days when you would stay out until the street lights came on. If there were street lights, I don't think there were many in our area, but you'd be staying out till dark, and the only time you'd be back home maybe is for dinner, right? And so it was great. We had a creek running through our property, and it just, even though it was in Surrey at the time, it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't built up. So it was very suburban, and just a really nice environment to grow up in, where you didn't seem to have many worries. Then we moved to another location when I was a bit older. Um, Met some good friends there too. Went Started working. First job was actually paper route delivering the Vancouver Sun.
Oh,
And back then, that's when the paper was a real paper. It was like, on Saturdays, it would be almost 2 inches thick. And that was a killer on a bike that I think I had a 3-speed bike at the time as
wow.
well. But yeah, so it was a real big paper, and that's where I earned my first money, and sort of learned the value of it. Um, After that, I worked for McDonald's for several years going through school, and that's how I
Oh,
bought my first car, and so it was good. During that time too, um, I had, oh, and I still do. an older sister and brother who were quite a few years older than me, and a younger sister who's several years younger. Um, so I was sort of in between, in the middle there. Um, my older sister, by the time I was in my teens and that, she was moving out already. But my older brother, we did a lot of things together. Um, he- a lot of things I think uh, that he thought were fun, I thought were fun, ended up getting me little bumps and scrapes doing crazy things, but they were quite fun, and I looked up to him a lot. At one point, I'd been doing some photography already, but nothing serious, and he decided to take a night school class at what would turn out to be my or what was my junior high school in photography, black and white darkroom, and he asked if I wanted to come along, so I came along, did that too, and learned how to develop photos, and that was really um, I went from liking photography to really falling in love with it. The whole process of taking the photos and developing them and manipulating everything in between so that the picture was perfect and so I really have to credit my big brother with the sort of the uh, push and that to do more in photography and for years at my time in the military, I got away from it just because the opportunities weren't there, but I've got back into it again. And my brother had sort of gone away from it a bit, and I think he's back in. I know he's back into it more now. Um, so we've gone on a trip up to the Yukon together doing photography. So it's really nice that that relationship is there and can still keep being nurtured by these things. So overall, yeah, it was a great childhood growing up. My dad, at one point, we had a small 14-foot boat. Um, we used to go fishing places like Chilliwack Lake and that, camping there, and that was great. We'd go on the ocean off the coast of Vancouver fishing. Every year, his company at work would have fishing tournaments, so we'd go on that. So yeah, it was a lot of outdoor stuff, and that probably contributes to my love for the outdoors now.
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
one other big thing that I just sort of skipped by altogether that was in my youth. From the time I was 10 through 17, an 8-year period, I played minor football. This is something else that my big brother had done a couple years of. Um, but I played minor football and I just loved it. And of course, it was Canadian rules here. So I've always loved the Canadian Football League, still to this day. But yeah, um, all those years playing it, just what I remember is I would go to the practices, go to the games, and every time in the game, if there was something I did that was a good play of some sort, I would hear my mother in the bleachers cheering me on, and just an amazing feeling. You get that sort of embarrassment as a young kid, right? But at the same time, so proud that you made your mom happy.
That's beautiful. In fact, you jumped my next question, which was about your football. Um, wow. Thank you. So, people who know you as this almost stoic person who's reserved and very put together, well put together, held together. I'm not sure how many people know about your sense of humor. You have one of the sharpest and quickest wits I've ever come across. You can respond to people with funny lines in like half a second and it just comes pop, pop, pop. It doesn't stop. It's phenomenal. Have you always been like this with this crazy sense of humor and wit? Or did it develop maybe after seeing a lot of combat and bad experiences?
Um, I think the edge that I have to it has developed more with time here and some of the experiences that you alluded to. Some of it was pretty horrific in that, and yeah, that's a way that often people deal with it, especially in military and policing professions. But from early on, I had no choice but to develop it because again, I had an older brother who, as great a friend and buddy as he could be, liked to pick on me and get those little shots in too, right? So I had to be as sharp as I could, and being a little brother, of course, I never seemed to be quite as sharp as him. He'd always come back with something, even if I got him really good with a one-liner or something. Um, but yeah, so that's where it all started. We can blame him for the development of it, but certainly um, the way it's gone and the edge to it has come later on through different experiences and things I've seen and done.
That's, yeah, it's one of your strongest and most endearing qualities. You've told us about photography and how you got into it. Tell us about your company, what you're doing with it, what your plans are, and how people can get involved with your photography.
So right now I'm just very slowly developing things with it. Um, I'm still working full time, and my hope is that as I ease out of that over the next several years, um, that I can start doing more on the photography side. What I do right now mostly is prints, and I'll do landscape photography, nature photography, some other kinds as well, cityscapes, things like that, and um, do up some prints of them, and then sell them. I've got online sales as an option, but primarily either I sell them hopefully through the fine arts show here in Sooke. If I can get accepted to that every year, I try. And the sales aren't big, but it gets your name out there and exposure. It's a uh, juried entry,
Competition.
right? So um, you have to have decent work to get in. Obviously, you just can't put whatever. But the other place is there's Station Street Galleries, which is in Duncan, and they have my work. And actually, in July, I'm going to be having a bit of a show on there with more prints than normal, and there should be a bit of a grand opening for it. And I'm looking forward to that. So that right now, that's sort of the main thing I focus on. I do, um, if anybody asks, I will do specific photography, um, whether it's of a particular area or anything else they want. I'll do specific to photography tasks. I don't do things like weddings and that. Um, I'm planning on starting some workshops, some local nature workshops, waterfall tours, and that. Um, Initially, it's just going to be around Vancouver Island, southern central Vancouver Island, but I will in the future expand beyond that. So that's where I am at right now.
And how does one reach you if they're interested in? Because I know my wife and I are coming to your exhibition here in Duncan in July. What if someone wants to sign up for, how do they get in touch with you?
So the best way is probably through one of my websites. I have two different websites. One is just like my name, drakedyck.com, and that's drakedyck.com. And the other one is sookphotographyadventures.com. And um, both sites are sort of in the process of being updated right now, but in the near future, they should be up fully and looking good again. Right now, it's been quite a while since they've been upgraded, and yeah, it's time to do that. I want to for sure have that in place before the gallery showing in July.
Okay. You're one of the pillars of our philosophy club, our podcast, philosophy podcast also. You've been steady and regular all along. We started out with simple conversations and questions like should this be allowed, or is this right, or is this wrong? And now we're evolving and maturing into deeper, more gray conversations, and we are more into exploring a concept rather than just trying to debate it or get into a yes or no situation. And I just, whether it was those initial discussions that we had in the group, or the way it is, the podcast is developing now, you've been a solid part, and you always contribute with solid information and solid input. So it obviously comes from the depth that you have, that you can plumb into. You can go down there and bring stuff out because you have that depth in who you are as a person. So can you share a bit about your own spirituality or philosophies, or what brings you together and what keeps you like who you are? I mean, spirituality must be a big part of it because you're so deep. You're a person with a lot of depth.
Yeah, thanks. I I really have a curiosity about all things, but particularly to do with nature and um, humans, how we interact with others, our past, our future. Those things are all something that I think about, that I enjoy thinking about. And so the whole philosophy uh, podcast concept here was great to me when you suggested it. Um, as far as any spirituality in that, nothing in the formal religious side of things in that. I just have a deep inner desire to know more, and besides learning to try and do the right thing, regardless of whether um, it's something that someone else thinks I should be doing or not, or that a particular belief system says. It comes from within me what I feel is right, and trying to do that for myself and for others. Um, and by learning more about others, and the way that humanity is developed, the way we're going, the natural world around us, all those things uh, contribute and help me understand things more, and I think make me what I am, and what I believe in. I get frustrated when I see people that have opinions that are so far different that I can't understand them, and I want to know more about why they're thinking that way. And sometimes um, reading about them and talking to them, and that helps. And other times it still remains a mystery. But I think that's all part of the process, is exploring and trying to understand.
That's wonderful. This is not a question, it's more of an observation that I have. You've got this wide bandwidth, which allows you to just get along with, or even have conversations with people from all ends of the spectrum. There are others with that quality, of course, but you manage to do that while holding your own. Like, you and I have disagreed on issues many, many, many times over the past few years, and we still disagree on some issues. But I've never seen you as a person who judges others or says, "Oh, you think like that, so you must be a bad guy or you must be weird," or anything. You're able to sit, listen, put your point across, and still be extremely pleasant and kind. And the amazing thing is that while you get along with everyone, you still stand your ground and you are open about it. You're not the kind who keeps quiet. You speak up, but you still manage to come out without being offensive or rude or anything. It's a phenomenal quality, and it's something I've observed and I'm trying to learn from you, and it's quite inspiring. Just an
Uh,
observation.
Thanks very much. And if I can just comment, um, I think it's important, and more people I wish would take the attitude of being able to disagree with someone, and at least trying to see their point, uh, um, even if they don't ultimately come to side with them, and be okay with it. Somebody has a different opinion. It's all right. There are things that obviously are going to be an urgent nature, and it's going to upset you a lot more. Um, but for the most part, it's okay. We can have our differences, and just because you think something is different than I do, that doesn't matter. Overall, I know Vin is a great guy. I like him, have a lot of time for him, or it doesn't matter who it is. And it's that trying to understand each other, even if you don't agree, that um, I think calms down the situation, so we
Yeah.
can all have an understanding and get together, and would be so much nicer if there was more of that around us.
Yeah. I also think maybe all the, the horrific things you've seen or experienced in your life, this is just a guess of mine. I think maybe that since you've seen so much of horrible things, you don't catastrophize easily. If someone has an opinion different from you, you don't just take it as the end of the world. You're like, okay, I've seen worse than
True.
this. It's fine. It's just an opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, even at the worst things, for the most part, it's come to the point where there's only so much you can do as an individual, and if I'm doing my best and what I believe is best, and it doesn't solve the situation, it doesn't stop it, I've still done my best.
Yeah.
And it's very unfortunate these awful things have happened. Um, but to be mad at everyone because of it, or to let it really sink in and hurt you, doesn't help anyone. And I mean, I'll be honest, when I was in Afghanistan, I saw a lot of awful things, and was focused on the job, focused on those around me, and got through it there. But once we were out of there, it hit me really hard for a little bit, and just dealt with it, talked to friends, and got through it. And I think being able to be open about issues goes a long way, and knowing when to do that, and when you have to just sort of hold on to things for a little bit, like when I was in active situations, right? You hold on to them, and if you can't release them immediately, then you can deal with them later. And you just don't want to hold on to something forever, right? Because then it'll start to eat away. But as long as you can just sort of put it in your mind that this is something that needs to be dealt with, and it will in its own time. And then that helped me get through things, and just sort of do the professional job. And it's like that with everything else. If there's a dispute between us, between anyone, okay, just sort of put aside the fact that it might be disturbing me because somebody has a different opinion, and listen to what's being said. And later on, you can evaluate whether it's something to be upset about or not, and deal with it in your own way. But certainly raising the temperature at the time doesn't help the
Yeah.
other person, and it doesn't help you. You're not going to convince somebody by getting mad at them.
Powerful words. Extremely wise. Extremely wise. You like we know you've seen things, you've done a lot of service, you help the community. What is your own coping mechanism? Do you take some pills? Do you go to a therapist? Are you religious? I mean, I know the answer to all of these, but still,
Yeah.
what is your coping mechanism? It's something others could definitely use.
Uh, so again, there's none of the pills. Um, there was one point when I had been back from Afghanistan for a little while, and I didn't realize it, that I was sort of getting a little bit more uptight about everything, and little things were bothering me a lot more. Um, but at work, we had somebody come in and talk about PTSD, and some of the stuff on the job.
Mm.
And as he was talking about it, I could feel myself getting more tense and more upset by it. And at that point realized that, yeah, these things that I thought I dealt with were still bothering me. And fortunately, I was still in the military, and despite what you might hear elsewhere, they do have a pretty decent system for dealing with this. At least once it's identified, right? Sometimes it's hard to identify. And I went talked to some therapists there, and I'm fine. It never seemed to have any recurring issues with it. Um, but generally, um, I will deal with it on my own way. Sit and be quiet, think about things, go for walks in nature to relax. Um, and if it's something that's still bothering me, I'll speak with a friend, speak with my wife, who's wonderful, very understanding. Um, so I've got some outlets there that are very good for dealing with stressful situations.
Oh, yeah, I've met your wife. What a wonderful lady. And the two of you are, when you're together, both, I mean, you light up, and I've only met her with you, so she's always lit up. I think you've got a phenomenal relationship, and I've seen how devoted you are as a husband. It's amazing. Uh, Tell us how that works. How did you get to such a beautiful situation? Did you have to work towards it? Did you have difficulties, or did it just come naturally from the day you met that, wow, this is it?
Yeah, well, there was certainly that wow when we met, and things were great. But along the way, especially in the earlier days, there were some rough patches. Um, I had been married before, as had she, but I had some children that were with my ex, and there was a lot of stress around that. They weren't living in the same city as us, so it made more difficult. And then, as I said, with work, especially when I was doing the investigations, there were times where I'd be called away last minute, very short notice for days or weeks on end.
Mm.
And so that would put strain because we'd have plans, we'd have to cancel them. And that would put strain on us. But I think the mutual understanding we had with each other, she had spent 10 years in the military and only got out because of issues beyond her control. And so we both had a similar background and knew where the other one was coming from with things. And I mean, that's certainly helped with my being overseas and coming home and dealing with issues. Um, and yeah, it's just grown stronger. There, like any relationship, there's always uh, little issues here and there, but they're nothing that um, you can't get by if you really truly love someone, right?
Yeah.
Um, y- she can do things that infuriate me in one moment, and it's gone to me right away because okay, for that second something upset me, but that's not what's important, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I do more than my share of things that are upsetting, so yeah, it's a little bit of give and take. Yeah,
You guys are phenomenal together. I just love the energy that comes out of both of you when you are together. It's beautiful.
thanks. Yeah.
I'm creeping up on the big question slowly, meanwhile, in Sooke. But let's start with Sooke. What
All
brought
right.
you here? You've been here a while. What has changed in the time that you've been here? And your thoughts on Sooke?
Oh, those are some good questions. What brought me here initially was I was posted to Canadian Forces Base at Esquimalt, and the military gives you 5 days to come out. And I don't know if it's changed. I don't imagine it's changed much. Um, 5 days to come out, find a place to live, uh, purchase it, and be all ready to move. Um,
Wow.
so, of course, you do a lot of research beforehand if you can. Fortunately, by this point, there was enough online that I could research it. Sarah and I took a look at what was around, um, and Sooke was affordable. We actually looked all everywhere from uh, Saanich and beyond. up to the Malahat. We didn't go over the Malahat, but everything in between, and looked at various places and decided that Sooke was a beautiful community. Housing was more affordable here, and we're so close to nature. We decided to make this our home, and that's something like 17 or so years ago now, maybe 18. And there's no reason that we'll be leaving anytime in the foreseeable future. That's for sure. We're very happy here. We're doing some renovations to our house right now as we speak.
Yeah.
So everything is good. Um, the community is just fantastic. It's such friendly people here. Um,
Mm.
yeah, you're one of the people I met through a Meanwhile in Souk gathering before I had much to do with Meanwhile in Souk other than being a member, right?
Yeah.
But there's a number of people I've met through that and through the photography club out here. For a while, I ran that. I've passed it off to others now to run. But it's a great community, always doing things. Um, there's an individual who embodies what Souk is all about. And I just have to say his name, he's uh, Sifu Koshin Moonfist. So he's Sifu because of his martial arts background, Kung Fu. And I actually took a little bit of training with him and found it very fascinating. But he's someone who is so super friendly. He's always doing things for the community. Every Sunday, you'll see him out there cleaning up areas of the community, getting people to join in with him. And it's people like that that really um, embody the spirit of Souk and make this such a great community. So uh, again, I just love it here. And um, Souk isn't the most convenient place to live if you're working downtown. Traffic can be a bit of a nightmare going to and from work all the time, but um, that's little issue when you got so much beauty here and you're so close to the ocean and the forests.
Yeah, I agree. I refer to Souk as a slice of heaven.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Let's talk about Meanwhile in Souk. How did that happen? How do you cope and manage with this huge mass of information and data that you have to sort through every day? And I've got a few more questions, but let's just start with how did it happen?
Sure. So Benjamin was actually the one who started Meanwhile in Souk, and he got it going and built it up really well. Um, and it was running for years. I had joined it shortly after I got to the community. He had just started it up
Yeah.
not long before that, so I was one of the earlier ones on it. And um, I'd met Ben at an early gathering he had, and obviously a number of times since. And we get along as well as he does with anyone or with most people, I think. Ben keeps to himself a lot, so um, I had been friends with him that way through Meanwhile in Souk. And at one point, he asked me to be a moderator, and I did that, and then an admin, and got to the point where he wanted to back off. There were a lot of unfortunate things said and directed towards him on Meanwhile in Souk, and it's a little bit much for him. So he asked if I would like to take it over. And there's such a great community on Meanwhile in Souk that I jumped at the opportunity, and we'd actually discussed it for some time, and it was about a year later when he handed over the reins, and um, I've done a little bit of polling and some minor tweaks with it, but really it's running on the foundation that he built, and I'm just trying to keep it going and do the best I can for the Souk community and everybody on Meanwhile in Souk. And it's amazing the size of it. It far exceeds the number of people that are actually physically in Souk, and from places all around the world that are members of it now. Um, and in the near future, I want to start some get-togethers again. Ben would have sort of coffee get-togethers every once in a while, and it's been a long time since. So hopefully we'll start that in the next month or two again. Have a big group get-together like that, and maybe get some more Meanwhile and Sook merchandise out there. I know people liked the new design, so
Yeah.
maybe some T-shirts and things like that just to get the word out about Meanwhile and Sook and a little more community spirit and keep people connecting. We try to. I'm still mostly following Ben's guidelines for the way he was running it. We try to keep out of politics for the most part, or any really controversial subjects, um, and that way it keeps it as a nice friendly area.
Yeah.
There's other places people can go, other souk um, sites that people can go to that allow that kind of thing, and it's different kinds of discussion. But meanwhile, Souk is trying to be a positive place for everybody in Souk and those that want to know more about it.
Yeah, it's you're doing a phenomenal job, and the
Thank you very
negativity
much.
is just contained, beautifully contained, very well done. So, as a local, let's say that someone moves to Souk now, or how can they maximize the site? What can they get out of it? Can they advertise? Can they put something about themselves? So, let's say someone starts a business. How can Meanwhile in Souk help, or someone needs something? So, a little bit for people who are using the group.
Sure. So right now, there's no formal um, advertising program. That's something Ben had tried in the past, and there were some issues with it as it was. It's something we'll look at in the future again. But if people want to put up something just for their local small business, um, every once in a while, maybe even once a week, I don't think we have a big issue with that here. We're happy to promote, especially the local businesses, right? So if somebody has something like that, great. There, there's certain types of businesses which try and advertise a lot that are scams, and we do our best to try and filter those out. Um, and we rely on the members a lot to report anything because it's easy for some of these to slip through the cracks, but uh, generally there's a few types that I'll see and know almost right away those are just a scam, so we just immediately ban them. But
Okay.
between bots and nefarious people trying to get on, there's some of that. But I really want us to support local businesses and that here, whether it's something run out of somebody's home or a local restaurant or flower shop or anything like that. Barbers, all
Yeah.
those community services are great, and any little promotions we can give them, I'm happy to make sure they get time on Meanwhile and Soup.
Wow. Thank you. I'm sure that's going to be useful to a lot of people.
Hope
And
so.
yeah, yeah. Meanwhile, in Souk is whenever I need something, I just post over there and I get hit with several responses, and then I get to pick the best source or vendor that I need to work with.
Yeah, and that's the same way that we found our contractor here for our renovations. Is I just
Oh,
put something out there and had contractors on there and talked to one, and it turns out when he came down doing the quote, he was pointing at a picture on the wall that I had there and asking if it was a certain location and saying how he saw some of my stuff on YouTube because I've got a YouTube channel that I don't post too often enough. And asking me about another one he'd seen of mine and location for it. And so it was just really interesting to see a member of the Meanwhile Soup community, um, someone that I reached out to for something, sort of knew me through my work already,
yeah.
and it's just a nice feeling to get that kind of connection there.
What's the name of your YouTube channel for anyone who wants to visit it?
So it's um, just like my business, Souk Photography Adventures.
Okay.
So if you
Okay.
search that, you'll find me there.
Okay. Thank you. That was nice. As a person who's traveled so much, who is doing his bit for the community, a solid, productive member of society, how do you see the current world situation? What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, we could open a huge can of worms with that. Right now, it is, I don't want to say almost crazy, but it is very um, in turmoil in a lot of ways. There are things going on just across the border from us that are very different than they have been in the Canada-US relationship in my lifetime. But beyond that, there are things going on in places like Ukraine, in Israel, Iran, um, things that are going on in other countries that don't have maybe necessarily an active war, but have very serious internal and external issues around Taiwan, things like that. Um, all over, there is a lot of unrest
Yeah.
and instability that I think is more than we've seen in a generation at least. Um, and all those come back and have an impact on people in different communities, including here in Sooke. Um, Obviously, with some of the tensions and way things are being dealt with in the U.S., there have been campaigns in Canada over buy Canadian instead of American, and that's affecting us here. I think I know from looking at the news, travel patterns have changed. A lot of people are hesitant to travel to the U.S., travel elsewhere, um, and then on top of all those things, there's um, plane crashes in places like India that were just devastating, with one person walking away out of the whole thing just incredibly. But again, there's a lot of things going on, and it seems to be all over. It's not concentrated to one area. It's not just one person or one country that is causing any upheaval. Um, so Suka is a nice, quiet, calm place, and um, yeah, it's good to be here and sitting, watching what's going on in the outside instead of necessarily being involved in some of those things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's so much going on, and I love the way you keep yourself so calm and together all the time. All right, so here's a question for you. What should I be asking you? What area have I left out that I should touch upon or ask?
I think we've covered a lot of areas. That is a good question. I have to take a second to think about it.
Mm.
Um, we've talked about my younger years growing up, my time in the military. Um, Something you may not have known, we didn't really touch on, was the time sort of after school and before I got into the military.
Mhm.
Because I didn't get into the military till I was a little older than average, in my, I think, 26. Um, but between school and that, I started working a little bit for a security company, but then quickly got into doing private investigations with them. So I was hoping to get the red Ferrari and that, like Magnum, but it never got that far. But that was something that was fun and interesting, and um, really sort of fed into my enjoyment of doing an investigation. And certainly, once I got into the military police, it became much more serious, formal investigations. But it was a time in my life that I learned a lot about myself, and it helped shape where I went from there. So um, yeah, that's probably the one area that we didn't really talk about.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And you've also done scuba diving and kayaking, I think, quite a bit.
That's true. Unfortunately, I don't get out for either as much as I'd like. But yeah, I love scuba diving. The freedom you get from that. Um, Almost all of my scuba diving has been here on the West Coast, either off the coast of the mainland or off Vancouver Island. so it's fairly cold water. Um, but it's such a great feeling where you can balance yourself out and just sort of float and seem weightless there. Um, I sort of think of it almost a bit as if you were floating in space. I know it's very different, but and then to see the marine life around you, it's just incredible to see all this other life that is so different from everything on land,
Yeah.
just going about its business. And I have been lucky enough to dive in a warm water area before. And again, it is such a vast difference in what you see down there from what you do up here. And so much nicer not to be in the cold water. And actually, I'm hoping maybe next year to go another warm location for some dives and that. So hoping to get back into it a bit more. Kayaking, I do have a kayak here at home that I take out occasionally. I didn't unfortunately get out last summer, but I'm definitely planning on getting in the water this year. And it's nice because again, it's out in nature. It's something you can do by yourself or with one or two friends, and um, just so peaceful out there, and you never know what you're going to see. So it's another way of just relaxing for me, and it's good exercise paddling out there too.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Last question I have is, as I've said a couple of times, or more than a couple of times today, you've had this life, you've made choices, and today you're a solid person. Quite inspiring, lots to look up to about you. What is your message to anyone who is inspired by you or is looking up to you? Maybe a message for the younger generation or just for anyone like me who's listening, anybody.
I'd just like to see. I like to look in and be able to rely on myself and know that what I've learned from others and that I can use, and I don't have to try and please anyone else. I want to do what works for me, not in a selfish way, but in a way that I know I'm doing the right thing because it is the right thing for me, and it's the good thing, the right thing to do, regardless what anyone else might think. And if you can be positive in yourself and that you are doing good for yourself and for the sake of it and for others, if others don't see that, that is their issue to deal with. You have your own issue to deal with, and you can move forward happily, peacefully from there.
Yeah, you and I exchange maybe 10 or 12 memes a day.
Yeah,
And remember this meme. I don't remember if I sent it to you or you sent it to me, but it was super powerful. There's an image where there's a bunch of sheep jumping off a cliff, and there's one black one standing there. And it says the black sheep isn't always the bad guy, you know? So
that's true. That's true.
that's thank you, Drake. I wanted to do this for a while. There's a lot I've learned from you. I continue to learn from you. It's having you as a friend has made my life a lot richer, and I'm grateful for it. And I'd like to keep this going. Thank you so much. If there's anything you'd like to still say or ask or anything, let's do that.
But
And
thanks. First, I want to just say thank you very much. It's been incredible to have you as a friend, and I really look up to you, and I appreciate you having started the whole philosophy salon and asked me to be part of it. So that is really important to me, and I just want to make sure you're aware how grateful I am. And I just look forward to getting more sessions in on the podcast and moving forward with this. And it's been really good talking to you. If anybody who hears this has any questions about Meanwhile and Sook, about photography and that, I'm happy if they reach out, whether it's through Facebook, Meanwhile and Sook, or my websites. Be happy to talk to them.
Thank you. And I've got to say the feeling is completely mutual. I've already said that. Thank you. And yes, meanwhile in Sooke, what a phenomenal instrument that is. It's so powerful and so helpful. You're doing a lot of good for everyone. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. And I'm going to see you soon.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, Ben.
Take care, Drake. Bye
All right,
bye.
bye-bye.